I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Pina Coladice from Yellow. Pina Coladice is a fast-paced 2 to 4 player game of rolling dice and trying to get more points than your opponents by the time the game is done. The general structure of a turn, and we'll start with this green player over here, general structure of a turn is you're going to roll some dice. You're then going to try to see if you can create any pairings that will allow you to place one of your drink tokens on one of these coasters that have been randomly set up. There's a bunch of coasters here, there's a bunch of coasters over here as well, and you're going to choose 16 of them to make a grid, and then that's going to be the coasters you're trying to fulfill. From there, we currently have a 6, 6, a 5, a 1, and a 3. And there's a few things we can be mindful of. The first thing I'm going to look for is doubles, because green coasters are usually doubles or sometimes pairs of doubles. In this case, I could use my 2 6s, and I can put a drink marker on this particular coaster on that 1 point spot and get a single point. That would be a valid turn. But the trick is, you have 3 rolls. This is a Yahtzee-like kind of game, like I mentioned earlier, which means you can roll multiple times, and I'm going to try to go with 3 6s even help me. You see, over here we have the greens are doubles, the blues are triples, and then anything red is a more advanced combination. So for over here we have 21, 22, 23, we'll get you this one. A small straight, a plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, so a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 2, 3, 4, 5 would be 2 points. Higher than 26 would be a 4 pointer for the first person that goes there, and a 3 pointer for the second. It doesn't look like we have 5 of a kind, but we do have 4 of a kind over here. I'm going to roll for those numbers because you know what? Even going for that 26, in fact, I had a 5. I don't remember what else I had. I'm going to keep at least 1 5 because I'm going to roll for this 26. We're going to roll again over here, and we got a 2 and a 1. That's not going to help us. Let's roll again and see what we get. We have a 5 and a 1. 6, 6, 5, 5, that's 10. That's going to be plus 12 is 22, plus 1 is 23. So my total is 23. I can't get this one over here. I don't have all evens, which would be this one. There's not an all odds. There is an all odds over here. There's a full straight A, B, C, D, or 5, not straight, but 5 different numbers would be that one. So it looks like my best bet might be either this one, or maybe I'll go for the 2 pairs. Double 6s and double 5s, plus central placement. I'm going to go for a spot over here, and I'm going to take 3 points going 1, 2, 3. You start with a number of points based on which order you're in, and so right now, I got my 3 points. That is a sample turn. I'm going to quickly go through a few more turns, giving you some more ins and outs of the game before diving into my general thoughts on it. We're going to move to purple over here. Purple rolls. We got a 1, 3, 4, 6. 1, 3, 4, 6 means I could try to go for this one up here in the corner. Let's do that right now. We got another 3. Oh, do I want to risk it? Because 4 different numbers. This could be bad for me if I miss it, although I do currently have those double 3s. I could roll for full 3s or for even. I'm gonna pivot mid plan over there because I'm realizing the chances over there. And we got 6, 5, 4, 3, which 3, 4, 5, 6 would count for a small straight. We do have a full straight over here if we got that, but 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna go for a small straight, placing a number over here. I will note that I'm playing as all 3 players over here. I'm going pretty quickly, so if I play slightly suboptimally, I'm trying to teach the game. We're gonna go over here to the next player. Red goes. We have a 1, 3, 2, 1, 1. So 1, 1, 2, 2. We could get in on this double action. In fact, we're going to do that right now because even though we're getting the second place amount of points, I think the central location is very helpful for us. You'll see why in a second. I should take, by the way, that was the other player. I should take my 2 points over here, 1, 2, and then over here we're going to go 1, 2, and that's going to be our first round. We get back to the green player, and this is where you get to see more information about how things play because we're going to roll again, and we have 6, 4, 1, 3, 2. So we have the 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we have the 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh, the problem is I could go for the big straight over here. Alternatively, 21, 22. If I roll the double 6 over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what? We're going to go for it because I think there's a few options to us. So we're going to roll this over here, and we got a 2. So we have our 2s. I might just lock this in. I think it's worth locking it in. It's a little risky. The alternative is 4 plus 3, 7, 10, 7, 10, 12. I could go over here instead. I think this one is a little better, even though it's fewer points, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to lock in those double 2s. I'm not going to risk it. You know what? Let's roll these, see if I get something else that I'm intrigued by. We have a 4, 1, 2. Nothing that really pulls me in over there. So we're going to go with that double 2, placing a marker here, and getting 2 points. At this point, you're like, Alex, why 2 points? There's a 1 there. Because you also get points for your adjacent drink markers on coasters, orthogonally or diagonally adjacent. So over here, we have 1 point point from this, plus 1 point from this marker, we're going to go up another 2 points. The additional reason, because you might be sitting there saying, well, why not go for this one? Lock players out of it. This seems to be a better point. You'll still get the diagonal point. Why not do this? Because you also can trigger endgame. Well, you can trigger endgame a few ways, but the way you win the game is either being the player who has the most points once endgame is triggered, or alternatively, game end is also triggered when somebody has 4 in a row. If you have dream coasters on a column, on a row, or on a full diagonal, you immediately win the game. And so if I can get this over here, not only am I working my way towards points, I'm also working my way towards an end game trigger. That's the basic idea of the game. On your turn, you roll dice. You get 2 full rerolls, Yahtzee style, picking and choosing any number of dice and whatever you want in order to reroll. You are placing your drink markers onto coasters in order to score the points for the coaster, as well as points for adjacent drink markers you already have. Endgame is triggered when a player crosses into the most points over there, when a player's gotten rid of all the drink markers, or when a player has 4 in a row, column or diagonal, at which point the player with the most points, or the player who has gotten that 4 in a row, column or diagonal, will win the game. Past that, the only thing to really know is there is a setup variability based on the player count. So for example, you can see some spots have 2, some spots have 1. That's not based on the coaster, that's based on the side of the coaster, and there's going to be setup orientation based on your player count. Right now it's set up for a 3-player game. And then lastly, there's a little variant over here where whenever you don't achieve any coaster, any drink placement at all, you can roll a die and get a good or bad result whenever you are unable to place a marker, which could also incentivize you towards going for broke and possibly not placing a marker, because at least you'll get something out of it, good or bad alternatively. Anyways, that is how you play Pina Coladice. It's a pretty straightforward game. It's a fun, fast-paced party bar/game. I say bar/game. It's made out of these coaster materials. So it's like a full-on cork coaster over here, or at least it feels corky. It might be cardboardy. I don't know. I don't know the material of this, but it feels like a little bit of heft and thickness to it. But either way, this is Pina Coladice, a fast-paced 2 to 4 player dice rolling party game. As far as my general thoughts on it, I'm just going to go through all the stuff together. If you've seen my reviews, I usually have what I like, don't like, and see others not liking. For games like this, I sometimes skip that, just giving general thoughts. Pina Coladice is a lot of fun, with some caveats to it. But it's a lot of fun in the sense that the very first time diving into this game, this is one of those games where it didn't matter who won. You were cheering for other players. We were all cheering for each other. Watching a player try to go for that last die in order to get a full straight is incredibly satisfying to see them roll it. And frequently we are rolling and cheering and going aw when players did or didn't make their rolls, regardless of who was winning. There was an aspect of literal teamwork. This is not a cooperative game. There was an aspect of teamwork of being like, no, go for this one because you might be able to get the full 4 of a kind, so it's worth doing that. We were genuinely helping each other and happy to see each other roll well. So it's one of those games where we all just had fun playing it. It's a fun game, not just to roll your own dice, but to watch other players roll theirs, and either passing or failing, succeeding or failing, both of them are satisfying to watch and root for them, or alternatively be sad on their behalf, on both yourself as well as others. So it's just a fun game in that sense. It's very straightforward, which is going to make it very accessible to anyone from new gamers to kids to families to gateway games, and it just could be fun as well for your own personal game group. It's great in terms of the travelability of it, the small box size, and the fact that you can literally fit it all into a small plastic bag. Like, you can half the size of this easily by putting it into a bag, taking it wherever you want, so it's got a strong degree of portability to it. The rules are incredibly accessible, so in all senses, it checks those boxes as being a fun, good party game with a slight little push your luck element. Like, the idea that you're not just going for points, but you're also going for those rows, columns, and diagonals, that puts pressure on other players to block you. There's a little bit of like a kind of a tic-tac-toe situation going on here while you roll dice, but you're also trying to work your way towards the most points because that might be the default way you end up winning. And the fact that there's variable setups for the player counts means this board always does feel tight. Having those diagonals and like the center spots in this particular 3 setup over here, a 3-player setup, you have the corners and the centers have 2 spots, which again adds to the strategy as to what you're trying to do. If you're going for a row or column, you might want to get those ones before the corners because there's less opportunities, there's more opportunities for those to be blocked. So all around, it gives you a decent amount of strategy, a whole lot of luck, and just a lot of fun to the experience. The downside is there is a little bit less depth to the experience. This is ultimately roll dice, place dice, have fun. There's not a ton of variability. This little happy hour variant, I don't think it's called happy hour, it's called something else, but this little happy hour variant you have going on adds a little extra gameplay to it once you've played it a few times, and it does add some fun. Specifically, the main benefit of this to me is the fact that when you're playing the game, you're less worried about busting entirely and not being able to place anything out, because then there's always that compensating factor of I get to roll a die and it's good, I'm going to be able to do the good ability over here. So you do have that extra element of not being worried of failing once you introduce this. Past that, you're introducing just pure random chaos, but it's fun to watch that chaos play out, so it is nice to add in once you know what you're doing in the game. Overall, I think, let's get to final thoughts over here. Overall, Pina Coladice is a fun game. I've said fun a few times. It's a fun game to go through. I don't know how much innovation there is going on here. It's using the Yahtzee style mechanism, which has been used in a billion games. Not actually a billion, but a lot of games to date. It adds a nice small tic-tac-toe element and point scoring plus a instant win condition that adds a little bit of tension to the party game. Overall, it checks all the boxes. It's fun, it's fine, but it is lacking in that level of depth or even just sheer party craziness that might make this a better experience. I'm coming in at a 3.5 out of 5. It's fun. I do recommend it for that party vibes, but it's not one that's going to, it's not amazing. It's just a good game. As far as other game recommendations, if you're looking for another bar game, a friendly bar game, check out Skull. Skull is a bluffing game that is just a bunch of coasters, fits into a tiny little box, and can be a lot of fun, as well as being very travelable. Travelable is not a word, very portable, and also being a good game that relies more on bluffing than it does on dice rolling with the other players. And if you're looking for one of the craziest, most fun pure dice games that I know, I definitely recommend checking out Can't Stop. That is sheer craziness. It's another game you'll be rooting for and against your opponents at the same time as you all try to jump to the top of a tower, but it's a very heavy push your luck dice rolling game where you're constantly just trying to move up a bunch of tracks faster and better than your opponents. In any case, then until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.